My name is Benjamin. I'm 34, a real estate attorney turned licensed agent, which means I understand contracts the way most people understand traffic lights, not just the colors, but why they exist. I keep a legal pad on my nightstand, a measuring tape in my jacket pocket, and a thermos of black coffee permanently grafted to my right hand. I'm the oldest of two, the responsible one, the one who got a part-time job at 17, while my younger sister, Serena, got a standing ovation for remembering to take out the trash twice. Serena wasn't a bad person. She was a beautiful disaster, the kind that looks like a sunset while it's happening, and only later do you realize your house burned down. People assume real estate is glamorous. It isn't. It's Saturday morning septic inspections, clients who ghost you after 18 showings, zoning boards that move like continental drift, but I loved it anyway. There's something sacred about handing someone a key and watching their whole face change. Maybe I loved it because home was the one thing I had always built carefully and alone. The evening before my trip, I walked through my property the way I always do, checking windows, testing locks, breathing in the faint smell of lemon cleaner the maintenance crew had left behind. The backyard string lights clicked on automatically at dusk, little warm dots suspended in the dark. It looked like something worth protecting. My mother called while I zipped my suitcase. She had that clipped, practical tone she reserves for moments when she wants to say 10 things but has decided to say 2. Text when you land. I said I would. Don't overspend. You know how you get. I didn't know how I got, but I let it go. Good night, Mom. She softened slightly before hanging up. Have fun, honey. I flew to Kauai the next morning. First real vacation in 4 years. No clients, no inspections, no emergency calls about a water heater. My phone went into airplane mode before we hit 30,000 feet and stayed there. I read novels on the beach. I woke up early enough to watch the sky go from charcoal to copper. A local fisherman showed me how to cook fresh tuna over a portable grill and told me the secret was patience. A little girl at the pool asked if I was a movie star. I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my smoothie. On day 8, I turned my phone back on at the hotel restaurant over breakfast. I expected a few texts about packages or mail. What I found looked like the emergency broadcast system had exploded inside my contacts. 22 missed calls from Mom, 14 from Dad, 9 from Serena. A voicemail preview from Dad simply said, "Critical situation, call immediately." The granola on my spoon went back into the bowl. A server appeared and asked if I wanted more coffee. I nodded without looking up. I didn't call. I read first, text after text. The story assembled itself in pieces like arriving at a scene after an accident and reconstructing what happened from the skid marks. When I finally pressed call, Mom answered before the first ring finished. "Where are you?" "Still in Kauai," I said slowly. "What happened?" "We handled something for you," she said, her voice that particular brightness it gets when she's already decided she was right. "Your property? It's been sold?" The coffee cup I was lifting went back to the saucer without a sound. "I'm sorry." "You're welcome," she said. "Wait until you hear what we got for it." Outside, waves hit the shore and pulled back with a sound like the ocean exhaling. Normalcy. Birds, sunlight, a child laughing somewhere. It made the moment feel surreal, like watching a flood from inside a snow globe. "Mom, listen to me very carefully," I said. My voice was the same tone I use when a client is about to sign something catastrophic. "What exactly did you sign?" She talked for 6 more minutes. I listened to every word. Then I set the phone face down on the white tablecloth and looked at the ocean for a long time. Then I smiled, just a small one, because the house they sold wasn't mine to sell. Let me back up. Serena and I grew up in a narrow 2-story house where the radiator knocked in winter and the back fence leaned slightly left, like it was listening to the neighbors' conversations. Mom kept a jar of emergency cash above the refrigerator and a mental ledger of everything both children had ever cost her. I paid into that ledger constantly without knowing it. When I earned a scholarship, Mom said, "Well, you've always been the studious one." When Serena passed her driver's test on the 3rd attempt, Mom cried with relief and took her for ice cream. I drove Serena everywhere for 2 years after that. Interviews, appointments, parties. I'd wait in parking lots with a paperback while she was inside. And when she came out, I'd drive her home without asking how it went, because she'd tell me when she was ready, and because that's what you do. I passed the bar at 26, failed one section, and reset it 4 months later. Nobody threw a party. Dad said, "Good, now make it useful." So I did. I pivoted into real estate law, then got my agent's license, then spent the next 6 years building a client base the unglamorous way. Cold calls, floor duty, weekend open houses, 11 p.m. contract revisions. I ate peanut butter sandwiches over deal binders. I wore one good suit until the lining gave out. I took cases other agents waved off as too complicated. By the time I was 30, I understood something most people never do. It's not the house on the listing that makes you wealthy. It's the structure holding the house. Serena found credit cards the way some people find religion suddenly, completely, and with unwavering commitment. A car she couldn't afford. A wardrobe curated for a lifestyle 2 tax brackets above her income. An online business course financed at an interest rate that would make a loan shark wince. She posted champagne and sunsets. She texted me at midnight asking to borrow money for rent. I said yes, twice. She paid me back 0 times. The 3rd time I said no. She told Mom I was selfish. Mom called to discuss the importance of family loyalty. I listened. I didn't argue. I just quietly made a note in my phone that said, "This is the ceiling. Don't raise it." 2 years before my Kauai trip, a developer I'd been working with hit a wall. New construction near the park, clean architectural lines, wide oak floors, those huge sliding glass doors that make a house feel like it's breathing. The market had softened. Their lender got nervous, and they needed to offload the master lease to stop the bleeding. I knew the property. I knew the numbers. And I knew that in a panicked seller's market, the right structure is worth more than cash. I formed an LLC, Willow and Stone Holdings. The operating agreement was 12 pages of deliberate, boring precision. The LLC entered a master lease on the property with a recorded option to purchase at a pre-negotiated price locked in before the market recovered. I paid first, last, and security from savings. I licensed short-term rentals properly, pulled the permits, and placed traveling professionals and corporate relocations through a management company I vetted personally. The cash flow was methodical. The option was a weapon I could use when I was ready, either to buy, clean, or assign to a client for a significant fee. My name appeared nowhere in the public record, not because I was hiding from anyone, but because I'm a real estate attorney who has watched family members materialize out of nowhere the moment an asset becomes visible. I'd seen it happen to clients. I wasn't going to be a case study. I told my parents I was staying at a place near the park. It was easier than explaining beneficial ownership to people who still referred to contracts as the paperwork. The deed was registered to Willow and Stone Holdings. The lease was in the LLC's name. The mailbox had a brushed aluminum plate that read WSH LLC. My name existed nowhere. A casual search would find it. Serena's debt, by the time I boarded my flight, had reached $219,000. I didn't know that number yet. I would later read it in a text my mother sent to the family group chat like it was a fundraising goal. Here's what happened while I was watching the Pacific from a hotel lair. Mom, Dad, and Serena met a man at a chain restaurant near the highway. He wore a fleece vest and introduced himself as a cash buyer. Serena had found him through someone who knew someone. He had a card that looked professionally printed if you didn't look closely. Mom said a printed Zillow screenshot sat on the table between the bread basket and the ketchup. "Can we do this without him?" Mom asked. "He's traveling. Is he the owner?" the buyer asked. "It's his house," Mom said firmly. "We have authority to handle his affairs." They did not have authority to handle his affairs. The buyer produced a deed form he'd clearly retrieved from an online template. Mom signed my name in block letters. Dad witnessed it. Serena filmed a 15-second video of them tapping glasses and posted it with the caption, "Turning Points." The wire hit my parents' joint account the following afternoon. $394,000 minus what the buyer cheerfully called a service coordination fee. $22,000 for printing a fraudulent deed and driving to a diner. They paid Serena's creditors. They cleared their own car note. They set aside money for a family trip to celebrate. They left a portion earmarked for what Mom's text described as Benjamin's Fresh Start Fund. I read that line on the tarmac at Lehui Airport waiting to board my flight home, and I laughed a single quiet sound that probably alarmed the woman sitting next to me. Because you can't sell what you don't own. I didn't go to my parents' house when I landed. I drove straight to the property. A moving truck idled in the driveway. The fleece vest buyer stood in the living room photographing the ceiling with the confident energy of someone who believes a problem once paid for is solved. Mom was in the yard directing 2 movers in the tone she uses when she feels most in control of a situation. She lit up when she saw me. "There he is. We thought you might miss the handover." I walked past her without stopping. Inside, Serena leaned against the kitchen doorframe in an oversized sweatshirt. She gave me the slow, evaluating look she reserves for people she's already decided are overreacting. "Benny, how was Kauai?" "Living room," I said. "Everyone." Now they followed. People tend to follow when the quiet person in the room raises their voice exactly once. We sat. Mom crossed her legs and straightened her posture the way she does when preparing to be reasonable. Dad stood by the window with his hands in his pockets, waiting to be thanked. The buyer stayed near the door, which turned out to be good instincts on his part. "We made a hard call," Mom began. "But family comes." "The property you sold," I said, "is under a master lease held by an LLC. The option to purchase is registered with the county recorder. Title is clean and my name is not on it." Silence. "The deed you signed is not legally valid. The signature you provided is not mine. What you've described constitutes forgery, fraud in the inducement, and depending on how the wire transfer is characterized, wire fraud." The buyer's phone appeared in his hand very quickly. "Ben," Dad started. "I'm not finished." The tone stayed flat. "I've already been in contact with the title company and the developer. We're filing a notice of interest and an affidavit of fraud today. Nothing will record. The county will flag this parcel. If the wire is not returned, we proceed with litigation, and I will not settle." The buyer cleared his throat. "This sounds like a family matter." "It was," I said, turning to him. "Now it's a legal one. Call your attorney before you attempt to record anything. If you cloud this title, I will pursue your errors and omissions coverage, and I will not be quick about it." He went outside to make a call. He did not come back in. Serena unfolded her arms. "You're being insane. We were trying to help. You were trying to access an asset you don't own, to resolve the debt you created." "You have so much," she said, her voice going tight and genuine in a way that was almost harder to hear than anger. "You have so much and you just sit on it." I looked at her for a moment. "I sit on it because I built it quietly without asking anyone for anything, and I will continue to do that." Mom's voice dropped. "We were scared. Benjamin, 200,000. We didn't know what else to do. You could have called me. You were on vacation. I have a phone." Nobody answered that. Dad pointed toward the door. "If you're going to speak to your family this way, I'll speak to my family like adults, because that's what we are." I stood. "Here's what happens now. The wire comes back. The deed goes in a shredder. The buyer moves on. And going forward, I am not a resource. I'm a person." Serena's jaw tightened. "So, you're just done with us?" "I'm done with this version of us," I said. "The one where I'm the plan and nobody else has to have one." I left while the room was still deciding how to respond. The buyer called me that evening. Quieter now. His attorney had apparently reviewed the situation. "We'd like to return the funds," he said. "Wire it back by Friday," I said. "Well, consider this a misunderstanding and your family handled separately." He returned every dollar by Thursday afternoon. The recorder's office rejected the deed. The county flagged the parcel. The developer sent me 2 words by email. All clear. I slept 8 hours that night without once checking my phone. The calls from my parents came in waves through the following weeks. Mom cycled through guilt, then hurt, then a vague threat to tell people what really happened, which I found interesting given what had actually happened. I saved every voicemail to a folder labeled documentation and kept walking. Serena posted a video of herself cutting up one credit card with scissors set to music captioned "Accountability Era." She had 6 other cards, but the performance had good lighting. Dad showed up at my office unannounced. One Friday, my paralegal, Diane, who has been quietly formidable for 11 years, met him at the elevator. "I need to speak to my son," he said. "He's unavailable," she said pleasantly, given the active legal matter. "Please put anything you'd like to communicate in writing." "Legal matter?" he repeated like he was tasting something unfamiliar. "Well, look for your letter," Diane said, and returned to her desk. He left without writing anything. 3 months passed. I exercised the purchase option on the property, not as a statement, not as a victory lap, just because the numbers made sense and the timing was right. I furnished it slowly. 1 chair, 1 lamp, 1 bookshelf, nothing I'd need to justify to anyone. Some evenings I sit in the backyard while the string lights come on automatically at dusk. Those same small warm dots in the dark. And the yard is so quiet I can hear the neighbor's wind chimes 2 houses over. My mother texts occasionally, forwarded articles about forgiveness. Mostly I read them and don't respond. My father asks me real estate questions sometimes. I answer them like any client, professionally, accurately. Serena texted me last month. Are we okay? I wrote back. We're adults. We can be civil. She sent a thumbs up emoji. I considered that a reasonable conclusion. A few weeks ago, I sat across from a high school history teacher at a closing table. She'd been saving for 11 years when I slid the folder across the table and told her the property was hers. She pressed both hands flat on the cover and breathed out slowly, like she'd been holding it a very long time. I didn't think this was going to happen for me, she said quietly. I know, I said. That night, I ate dinner alone with my phone face down on the table in the yard, humming outside. In the morning, I made coffee and stood on the porch in the early light and thought about nothing much. That's the thing nobody tells you about building a quiet life. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't make a speech. It just shows up one morning, ordinary and entirely yours. My name is Benjamin. I work carefully. I love my family at a safe distance. I don't fund chaos, and I don't apologize for that anymore. Some people will call that cold. I call it the foundation. And this time, nobody is selling it out from under me. Thank you for listening. Comment, like, subscribe if you find this useful or have feedback.